for with these shows. Oh, don't matter.
We'll be live for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, Dose.
Okay,
30.
look, I'm not trying to like cut it off. I was just wondering. I didn't want to be the one that's like, yo, this is an hour and a half. We need to end this thing.
We're not, we won't be on for an hour and a half. But hey, everybody, what's up? We are here after the Lions' big win yesterday at Lambeau. We got my guy Herman, we got my guy Dose, and we're going to be talking a little bit Lions win. Herman, we're going to be talking about some NFL rules, and we actually already have some questions coming in about some NFL rules and talking a little NFC North. So I figure we could start off by some quick reactions from how you feeling today after yesterday's win. Why don't you go first, Herman?
Personally, I feel great about it. It was a lot of the things that I talked about earlier that was going to come into play in this game, and that was, how do you deal with weather? I don't think Lambeau is what people think it means in terms of the intimidation factor. We talked about that. And then the consistency of a team, watching the Detroit Lions and them continuing to build on playing solid, disciplined, detail-oriented football is a great way for you to get over the hump when it comes to, when you're so equally matched to teams. A lot of people may not think that, but I'm gonna drill down to it when we get into going into this. There's probably 3 plays I think that were really the most significant difference in what you saw and what happened in this game. So that's just kind of my feedback. They went and took care of business and did what they were supposed to do, and that's why they're leading the NFC North, but also number 1 spot right now in the NFC conference. So there you go. Kudos.
What you got, Dose? Your jacket, Herman. Look at Dose's jacket. I want you to note that this is one of our made jackets.
I saw it. I've been peeping that out because I always like this logo. Dose. So man, I always peep that logo, man. I like that.
Man, I appreciate it. They hooked me up with this one. This is, if you've seen the designs that I've come up with, they're a disaster. You actually haven't seen them for that reason specifically. Yeah, no, he hooked me up on this one. This one looks good. The quality, man, it keeps me warm. See, that's the thing. It's the thing, H, man. I started wearing this to our games on Fridays. You know what I mean? So I just roll up with this. I was like, hey, I got the high school jacket. I'm gonna roll up in my jacket because it's got the logo on the back. It's feeling good. It's still Monday, so I feel like you still have that time that you can be a little bit over the top with kind of the crap talk a little bit. So for me, my feeling coming in, was like, hey, if the NFC North sees us win this game, everybody's going to be incredibly disappointed. They're in a really bad spot if we handle business. That's how I felt coming in because, we have Houston next, and Houston looks awful. Houston looks awful. They can't score points. So we'll see how that game goes. But we know that was going to be a big one coming into. I think everybody kind of circled that one. But the next 2 games after that, every game, everybody's got players. But you're looking at it like, if the Lions go handle business against Houston, this thing could get out of hand really quickly because they had their 2 games on the road. And I always, as a fan, I'm looking at it like, when do we play Green Bay? Do we play them early? And it's usually for the weather reasons. Now, H, man, I have a question for you on that because I saw your clip and you were cooking there and you said exactly what was going to be the case. But I wondered a little bit. So first off, do you think that kind of the whole mystique of playing in Green Bay kind of ended? They ended that the first, not the first year, but I'd say in 2022, when they won with DJ Chark, when he kind of walked it off, they went for it, kind of knocked the Packers out of all playoff contention. Do you think that kind of ended any of oh man, we got to go to Green Bay? Because that was always the thing. Growing up for me, it was like, oh, you're losing in Green Bay. You're playing in Green Bay, it's a loss. I remember going to a friend's house one night before the game, man. He was like, yo, you guys are playing at Green Bay. You don't even need to watch the game. You guys are losing that football game. We actually ended up winning that one. It's like when we broke the streak. But that was the expectation. You're playing at Green Bay. You're probably losing that game. So, did that change when we went for it on 4th down to go seal the game?
I think, yes. It was broken a long time, I'd say, before then. The mystique and all that, the history, you're never going to be able to take away the importance of what the Green Bay, being one of the older franchises in the NFL, being one of the most historic. You talk about championships, Lombardi, and all these other guys. So there's history there. No doubting that at all. However, once you've played there as a player, it starts to go down a little bit from there because it's just another game. It's another stadium. And it comes down to your players against theirs and then execution and so on and so forth. I will say this team came in, and I don't think they've ever preached that. They haven't worried about that. These are players who, Green Bay is just another stadium. It's not a big deal. So they didn't have to come in dealing with the Green Bay Packers, who were Super Bowl champion, the Brett Favres and all those eras where there was never any concern about the type of team they were going to be facing, the Mike Holmgrens. you know, and when you have that type of team that, and you can go up and down offense, defense, everything. You don't see a Reggie White over there, okay? There's no Bryce Pops, right? There aren't any Sterling Sharps over there at the wide receiver position, and Edgar Bennett's and all these other things. So it's a different world. This is a different game. So I just don't think the intimidation factor that we've seen in a lot of stadiums have been there. I do want to say this, man, before we keep going forward. Hold on, Chris. We always like to say what's up to everybody. Mile Marker, we got Frog, we got PK, you know, we got Dwayne, Speakeasy. Who was that? Cubby. Hey, what's up, everything, King? Paladin Cards. We got our people coming back. Dwayne, Michael. Just want to say what's up to everybody, man. We'd like to give a shout out to everybody that's coming in there. But I also saw one in here, those too. And then Chrissy, you didn't put it up. They said, hey, man, they wanted to ask you about that, your heat bill, man, your utility bill.
I did put it up. I totally put it up. The way you was
dressed, man.
Hey, look, I'm not going to lie with you. Look, man, it is hot. I got the heater right next to me. You know what I mean? Like, so I wanted to wear the jacket for the show. That's what I was trying to make that decision. I was like, I'm going to wear it.
Easy. It's always easy, a little bit. Easy's in there. You got something to say. Come on, Easy, man.
Mine too. I got the Motown Tattoo Company. More of our people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
now, I'll tell you what.
Shout out to those guys.
I might have a few too many things plugged in though. I'll be honest, because the power went off in my room yesterday, and I was like, oh, that's probably not a good thing. I figured it out this morning, but I assume that's not a good thing. That just happens in my room alone. Hey, H-Man, can I ask you? I want to ask you one more thing on that though, because first off, I heard this today, and I had never heard this, because I think what you're saying, you're kind of making it as like us on the outside make it bigger than it is. We talk about the weather and all that stuff. Okay. But, do you have something?
Wait, yeah. Chris, go ahead. I know you guys.
I haven't talked at all.
Oh, but, okay. All right. Well, okay.
All,
my bad.
What's up?
What's up, guys? How you doing? Yeah. No, the reason I have relevant things to say, Dose. So I just wanted to get in there. You know, I'm overlooked sometimes. You know, but I got a non-football perspective. Okay. I got some non-football, but football kind of goes both ways, right? Okay, number one, Herman is frozen. He's back.
That's true.
All right, number two. So when it comes to when you talked about the mystique or the pressure and how they probably got over that and they haven't thought about that. I don't know, Herman, if you probably didn't experience this, but one of the things, I was there from 2004 to 14. I don't think we won that entire time there. It's now a blur, but I'm pretty sure we didn't win there. That's all those guys here from the media. The whole week, probably weeks before, it's like, so you guys haven't won at Lambeau. So you haven't won at Lambeau. So you haven't won at Lambeau. So you haven't won at Lambeau. So did you know you haven't won at Lambeau? So as much as, you might, I don't know, Herman, how easy that is to tune that out, but that's part of it. They'd get up and that's all they'd hear about. But the other thing is, I want to ask you, Herman, because, you talk about how there's not a big thing at Lambeau, but with the weather and everything like that, guys really enjoyed like going out there with no shirts. Like they wanted to show off that they could handle the weather. Like they seem to want to show up the weather. So it's like, is it something you think about, or is it just kind of a random thing? Because Lambeau is kind of that weird in the middle of nowhere type stadium. It reminds me of like, Zelda, when you have to find the right code to get through the Lost Forest. That's like Lambeau.
Yeah, it's just sitting out there
in the middle of neighborhoods.
In the middle, it's just sitting there in the middle of nowhere. But first, hey, John Herring, man, what's up? Just wanted to say hello, appreciate you, and always like again, the LTL fan. We got Steve, just a fan. What's up, Ryan? What's up? No, listen, the media likes it because it brings something to the game. It brings that aura. You think about it. Like I've mentioned this before. Going into Soldier Field because it was so close and it was in the division was one thing. We go in Minnesota, you got the Viking guy coming out on the motorcycle, and it's just this whole different thing. It's just a different place, right? You go to what was it? The Raiders. It was a black hole. You got the dog pound. You got all these different things. You got what is it? The in Buffalo, you got their mafia, right? So you have the fan side of it for the intimidation, but I think that's fan on fan, right? And then when the players are playing, it's all about the players. It's about the weather. If you're a receiver and a skill position person, you're always thinking about surface. You're always thinking about the weather. You're thinking about night games versus day games because of the lighting situation. When you're catching passes, you can get the ball lost in light. We saw that a couple times in Green Bay. I really think on a couple of those deep passes, yes, the wind and the rain and all those were an issue, but it was just misjudging the ball because at nighttime the ball goes up in the lights and it just gets lost. And fans, they don't want to hear that, they want to see that, but it's one of the most difficult things to deal with. And then with the linemen and your tacklers, when you come in and a running back knows where he's going, a receiver's running a route, he knows where he's going. It's tough for a defensive back to make the cut. You can't anticipate. They can't slip and fall. If they do, that could be a touchdown. You know, linemen, if they overextend on a pass rush and something like that and get caught, then, you know, it becomes an issue for them in terms of recovering. So there's something there to it. And I think we all approach it a different way. And I think that's where this team and anyone who's played in this division understands whether you're dealing with inclement weather. I think we're built for it. When back in the black and blue division time, I mean, Green Bay being out there, you never wanted to play in December. It was going to be a daggone parking lot, frozen field, concrete. You were basically going to have to wear these little sneakers with the little nubs on the bottom because your cleats don't sink. And so it feels like you're running on the ground.
Herman, if there's that long of a losing streak, what kind of smack talk do you get though between the players? I know that was pretty brutal. Like what do you get from your opponent?
They're going to always go back to championships. I'm going to tell you right now, Green Bay is going to always, the one they're going to hold over the Detroit Lions' head is going to be like any other team until you win Super Bowls. And you can say you've been a Super Bowl champion, then it's always going to be an almost team. And that's what we're faced with, right? We've had all the top players. You can pick the greatest players that have played in this franchise history. And you ask them who has a ring. Pick your favorite Lion. You have to go back to the 50s, right? You're not going to have any championship teams. You got division winners. You have some teams now and won a couple playoff games, right? That's about it. But you don't have that end piece that when you stand there and you hold that ring up on your hand, man, it trumps everything when you're inside those conversations.
Yeah. Hey, Kerman, give these boys a shout out here.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Keith. Hey, Keitho, what's up? Alana and Brandon.
No, I got it on the screen, Herm.
We got T.
Look at me at the screen. At the screen.
Right. Yeah, I got Cubby.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
All right, Cubby Taylor. Hey, what's up? Oh, okay. Colin, Riley, Lucas. What's going on?
There you go. Good job.
All right. Well, Chris, you know, I'm over on my other side here. You know, I got my 3 screens. So everybody don't
12
know.
screens.
I got all my screens going. It looks like Command Center. But,
how many screens you got, Dose?
I got 2.
I have 2 as well. Herman's bougie. He's got like 7.
Man, whatever. I just don't like going up and down on my screens. I like to just be able to do like this, and like this, and I got it all there. Versus, I'm pretty sure you're clicking all over the place. But let's break bread, man. Let's talk. Hey, keep sending in your questions. Want to hear if you got anything you want us to talk about while we're on here. I want to say what's up to T. T's. I think I saw T in there. That's my guy.
You must not be looking at the screen again. I just put it up.
Okay. No, I was just saying that when you mentioned it, I was just giving him a shout out. We know. Come on. Hey, Dose. You got anybody you want to shout out to?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my guy Dookie Pickles. Shout out to Dookie Pickles, man. Who's Dookie Pickles? Do we know? Is that your guy, H-Man? Is that do we know him?
Hey, you being funny.
No, Dookie Pickles is in the chat. I didn't make the name up. He's actually in the chat. That's just want to give a shout out.
It'll be on demand. Don't worry. It'll be on demand.
I feel like we skipped Dookie Pickles, and I didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure.
Like he's killing me, man.
I know, man. Yeah, we don't want to miss it. I get you.
Yeah. We show love. We showing love around here.
Hold on here. Herm, do this one again real quick to Colin, Riley, and Lucas. Say hi, Colin, Riley.
Hey, Colin, Riley, Lucas. What's going on? What's up?
Good. Herman, were you a smack talker, Herman?
Oh, big time. You know, listen, let's jump over to that real quick. So we saw St. Brown. He walked in. Green Bay sucks. What is it? Green Bay sucks or something like that? Or
yeah.
Shirt, right? And then you read.
Here, look, I'll show you. Hold on.
Yeah. And I was reading. You know, what makes him say that? And he was like, he just doesn't like them. He doesn't like their players, and that's the rivalry. That's what we love. So we wanted to go ahead and throw some up there, in support of St. Brown and his sentiments for the Green Bay Packers. We want to just go ahead and show him a little love there. So if you want to rock what he was rocking, you want to rock what he was rocking, but you got the LNU, branding on it. There you go. You can pick those up, and I'm pretty sure, that's a pretty good price. But you're gonna smack talk, you're gonna build a certain reputation, and you're going to want to have good relationships in terms of friendships with, I think, different players on different teams. Is all about the competitive spirit. But at the end, you have to have that rivalry. You have to have players you don't get along with, because if you're out there and you're buddy and you're boys, right? You're not going to be. It's not the same focus. I enjoy that, and you want people coming for you. That means you're doing something. So come one, come all.
Herm, all right. So we got some questions here. So I know we had some things we're going to talk about, but I'll go back to the beginning because I'm going to try to. The one that we were actually already going to talk about is about the branch ejection. So I'm trying to find the actual question.
I want to get notes on that one
This
first.
was interesting, though, because this question I thought took a different take on it. Does the Players Association have any skin in the game when it comes to New York making the in-game, not the in-game, I would say, but just what are your thoughts on this?
Dose, Chris, I'm gonna do this. I'll talk about the Players Association real quick, and then Dose, I'm curious to get his response on that, and anyone else who wants to chime in on that, that'd be great. With the Players Association, when there's a grievance and there's something that as a player you need their backing and their support to go against some things that perhaps the NFL may have done, you do want to get them involved in representation and or talking to them about you, whether it's appealing a fine, whether it's talking about something that you feel that is unfair to you as a player. It's important to be able to at least get on the record that you disagree with something. Ultimately, the changes have to take place within the league and the owners. And getting in there, I don't think anyone, I know yesterday some people came for me. They were like, making a certain statement that this is coming from the NFL. I don't care if it came from the NFL's parents and they're like the people who are making those calls, like their parents, basically, right? Or whatever, right? I don't care where it came from. I just don't agree with it. I think it can't be all or nothing. There's got to be a middle ground that's in there, because I go to this, and I'll end on this part. Let's say this is a game that was playoff, because we're going, okay, it's in a game, it's regular season. No, this could happen in any game. This could have happened in a championship game. This could have happened in something where you need to have all your players because it's that tight of a margin of a game. And that rule would have been destructive, somewhere, in postseason play or something like that, potentially. So that's why I say it needs to be really looked at from that standpoint. And that's my take on it.
Yeah, the sad thing about those was always that New York would tell us the next day that they, apologized, which really didn't do anything for the game result. But sorry, go ahead, Dose.
No, I mean we love those. Those bring back good memories. No, look, that I'm with you on the same point, because I know, like, college wise, anytime that happens, it feels like it's automatic. Like, okay, yeah, if the call is going to stand, the dude's going to get thrown out of the game. I just thought it was crazy that he was thrown out, and then they added the 15 yards on top of it. Like, of course he was fired up. Like you threw him out on something that there was helmet-to-helmet contact. But to me, the way that I saw it is I thought that, hey, look, they're kind of at the same height level. Brian Branch ain't the tallest guy in the world. They're kind of just at the same height level. He clearly turned his shoulder. It wasn't like he came in like, let me see if I can go, drop my helmet and, there was none of that kind of intent there. And then to your point, like, I mean, it could have been anybody, but Brian Branch, and we felt his impact when he went out, because he was making so many plays early in that game, even when the ball wasn't thrown his way, because of what he was doing in coverage, makes a play against the run. So I just thought it was crazy how fast they were. Do you think there's any truth to, like, the idea of, you'll get like the NBA playoff games or whatever, and they're like, oh, we want to set the tone. There's no fighting. We're gonna set the tone right away. We're not gonna let these things go on. Do you think there was any of that because it was Lions Packers, and because we know that the history is there, like you're saying, with all the crap talk coming in? You got a guy wearing a Green Bay Sucks shirt. You got him flipping off fans. Like, do you think that was like a set the tone kind of thing?
You know what? What I really believe is that it was. Let's walk it back just for a second. So initially what they said is basically it wasn't because they felt that it was intent as much as they felt that he had the opportunity to pull up and not actually have the hit. He had time to react. Well, we're watching that at slow motion. We're watching that not at real speed. We're not watching that at the same eye level and the intensity that this person is playing with. This is not a game where rational thinking sometimes takes place. It's instinctive. There are some things that happen very instantaneous, and they are not taking that in consideration. So therefore, it was what was considered a subjective call, in that he had a chance, in their opinion, to stop. That's subjective. So we got to get rid of that middle gray area, that ambiguity. We got to get rid of where it's one where you got to give the player the benefit of the doubt when they're out there on the field, that the intent is not to go out there. I've seen intentional hits. I've seen people intentionally target people. It wasn't that. It's a penalty. It's a significant penalty for that player. I don't even care if you say the player's got to come out a few plays, right?
Yeah.
Or if you say this player's got to come out a series. I don't pick something else, but to just completely be like, you're out of the game for something like that. And daggone, man, I mean, this is football, dude. Come on.
Well, isn't it more of a danger too if you're trying to think through that instead of just reacting and acting instinctually? Isn't that offer more opportunity for injury and different things like that?
It is, because you're not doing something natural. And then I want you to look at these plays. Every time you watch, whenever the defensive back decides to tackle or anyone comes up to make a tackle, look at special team plays. They're coming into that head first. They're coming in trying to really just run through people. Running backs, when they run through, their heads are down sometimes. When you see a defensive back coming up to make a play or a lineman going in to tackle someone, they're leading with their heads too. It's the game. It's the way it's played. You don't just, it's one of those things that it's hard for me to walk away from this one, because I think it makes it a cop out to where an official can if they really want to have a bias and one that was kind of like, can't be questioned, and they had some different motive, and I'm not saying that there would be, they could easily say, you pick any play, I can pretty much either throw a penalty or I can make a play that could change the course of a game if it's going to be left to it being a subjective call.
What about?
Sorry, I'm going to put this up there for you guys to look at and keep talking.
Oh, well, because to your point, like, you're right. That's what it was. But I think back to last year when the Rams got upset when Kirby Joseph went low when the tight end was crossing the field, and he kind of like upended him. He doesn't come down with the football, and there was nothing on that, right? We know that the quarterbacks now are there's flagged. Hey, you went too low on the guy, right? So now it's like, okay, you tackled him low, it's a flag. That was like one of those plays where you talk about like the defenseless type of player. Like this one seemed way less harmless than what Kirby did, and they were fired up at Kirby for it. This one didn't seem like it kind of had any of that to it outside of the sideline that was looking for it, outside of the fact that they just decided to throw him out of the game for that hit. That's why it's weird to me, because I feel like the Kirby one was more dangerous and there was nothing to that.
Right. I agree. Hey, Mitchell, I want to say what's up, Steve. Wayne, I know we had put some up here a minute ago with Wayne. He says he could have stopped the same with QB hits. You know, I do believe that, and I can't explain this. You got to think about how many yards a player can cover in 1 second. And if they have already, they're running, a second is big. You know, if they're running 40 yards, you think about that in under 5 seconds, right? That's at a clip of, you're doing, 8 yards, right? You're doing 8 yards a second at that point. We're talking, he was feet away. Okay. So we can say that, but it's only if you're playing at a slower speed and you're instinctively going, I better ease up because I think this guy's going to, drop the ball, or it's going to come loose, or whatever's going to happen, man. That's just too much to process real time. And, but again, I think if we can find a happy medium, it's not going to be a perfect system, but I think we can start to continue to make improvements without having degradation of the game, because right now, you start to get further and further away from football. It's still weird for me to watch the kickoffs. I'm not going to lie. Like watching kickoffs, that traditional piece, the Devin Hesters, the Mel Grays, watching those speedy kick returners and stuff like that. Man, I used to love that component. Punt returns, you just don't see that anymore. It just seems like, it's just not enough space. I don't know. It's special teams is really not that special, but it's critical, and where they've moved the kicker back and they've done some other things, but it's just, and then the onside kick, man, what the heck was that?
That's just really annoying. Like, we have to tell you what we're going to do before we do it.
We're going to tell you we're kicking an onside kick. I got to be behind in the game. And the dude that kicked it, I was laughing. I was telling this. Yeah. I laughed, man. When they kicked the onside kick, I don't know if any of the line players even reacted, because he kicked that out of bounds so fast. Everyone just watched the ball kind of roll by. I was like, that was the worst onside kick I've ever seen, where I don't even know if anybody touched it. It just had no chance at all. But Lorenzo, what's up? Thanks for coming in. Eric, appreciate you coming out. But yeah, I don't know. So what you got? Let's jump to the game real quick. Chris, you want to lead us into any of that? You guys want to talk a little bit real quick about just the beatdown that was given But then on top of that, anything that stood out.
I was expecting less of a passing game, to be honest. I thought everything looked good, but I'm going to go ahead and go to Dose because I'm looking for a question that I want to put up.
Oh, okay. Well,
Just your overall as it relates to, we start with the offensive side. And then obviously people have talked a lot about Jared Goff and his continued efficient play, and then starting out 11 for 11. And you look at how bad the weather was, but it was a lot of control passing with the exception of the one to Laporta that I think was the one that was over 15. The rest of it was very precise passing and picking and choosing their spots.
Just a quick side, because I heard this today, and like I never thought about this as a fan. We were talking about Green Bay and the weather. They said that, like, and I don't know that it's true or not, but they were saying that Green Bay, look, man, if they have bad, it's not like they're out there practicing in the bad weather. They're going inside practicing too. So like when it's game day, because I wonder, like, how do you prepare for the rain? Are guys like spraying water bottles at you? Are you drenching the footballs that way you can catch it? Because like all the talk was about how it was going to be a problem for us, and then as you're pointing out, Goff's super efficient. I don't think we had an actual drop pass in this game. Packers had like 6 drop passes. For me, offensively, it was interesting because I thought coming in, like, okay, you hear about the weather, I didn't think it'd be that significant. Then you start watching live, oh, this is going to change the game. I thought they'd actually throw the ball a lot in early downs, and I think they kind of got to that eventually, like as the game kind of rolled along, like into about their third drive offensively. But for me, it's exactly what H-Man said. Like, I thought Green Bay did a lot of good things in coverage. They didn't really break down at all. We had some like little looks where it was like, we're going to try to get this guy open. I thought a lot of times they did a good job forcing us underneath. And a couple of times it was just our guys winning. Like Sam Laporta on that one. It was just Sam Laporta just going and winning. And I think that's been the big thing. Allen Robinson on the third down. Their timing of play calls, H-Man, I know, like, that always stands out to me. It's always the timing of things. Like the little screen that we ran to Monty, it picked up like 6 yards. But the play before, right, they tried the play action, the shot play, and everybody backs up, so Goff has to check it down. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, just that split decision, be like, all right, now let's run the screen, because you guys are all backing up. I'm going to throw a screen pass. And it's just like, I don't know, to immediately get to that, it's like we're not overthinking it. Like, he's so in the moment, I feel like, with the play calling. And that's what always stands out to me. They're so in the moment. I always love the game plans coming in. They seem so in the moment in tune of what's going on. And then, like you said, they just played like the cleaner team. They play like the team that had practiced outdoors for weeks now, seemingly because they just didn't make it bigger than it was.
It is. And they came out, they had a definitive game plan. And I can tell you right now, anytime you think the weather's going to be a little bit problematic, you think the surface is going to be a little problematic, the offensive coordinator is going to tell you they're going to run with more direct handoffs versus pitch routes. They're going to do the high percentage passes, which is your over the middle, your crossing routes. You don't throw too much to the outside because the ball has a tendency to drift from you. It's much harder pass to catch for your receivers. So as you're having receivers do what we call the in cuts, when you're doing the in cuts, you're keeping everything where you can see it. And the quarterbacks don't have to get wide. They don't have to hold on for the outside routes to develop. So I thought it was a really good game plan. And also the combination routes between when you'd have the tight end flex out and he would do more of a stack play with St. Brown, which means you got to bring a linebacker out or you got to bring a safety down. So you get them into predictable defenses. And then all of a sudden now you're working a lot of one-on-one. And to their credit, I mean, St. Brown has become just a master at running the control route and then finding those sit down areas where he's going to be. And for teams to right now, I don't know if they don't have enough personnel to stop it, but it's not that Ben Johnson's doing. I could tell you from my perspective, it's not a unpredictable offense. It's very predictable. The problem is teams are overthinking it. And I think they're lacking the personnel to be able to keep up with the pace and the different sets that they are running the same plays out of. The Lions are running the same plays. They're just doing it in different personnel groups, and they're moving certain guys out that are running those variations of those routes. So kudos to them in terms of mixing it up to create matchups without getting yourself away from what your game plan is, getting away from your playbook. And that's when you have a good, sound, disciplined offensive coordinator and a team. And that's why they're so consistent right now. The Lions are running the same plays against the same teams. They're just doing them in different sets, and they're changing a few things here and there. But, I really like I said, what they're doing overall. The running game was as impactful as it needed to be as well.
No, just say, what do you think is more potent, execution or game plan? Like if a team executes better as opposed to having a good game plan, what do you think is going to make a bigger difference?
Game plan.
Game plan? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You can, if you're really executing at a high level, a really bad game plan, you know, it's not the same. So if you have a good game plan, then obviously you have to execute it. But if you have a terrible game plan and you do great execution of a terrible game plan, the results are going to not be that great. See a lot of comments, you know, where people are talking about Jared Goff. We touched on him briefly about the take right now, him as an MVP candidate. Yes, if right now we were to look at it and say, who would you pick right now? And you look at which quarterbacks check those boxes, I think it's going to be Jackson or it's going to be Jared Goff. And I think most people have been paying attention. Lamar Jackson isn't awful, right? So I know people want to just automatically say, hey, because we're Lion fans, it should be Jared Goff. I think there's some other things that you have to take into consideration, but I think they're both playing at a very high level. But those are my two front runners. Yeah, I want to be biased and say I would love to see Jared Goff get it. We'd love to have a NFL MVP here in the city of Detroit, but I don't think it's going to be easily just you toss it away and give him a walkover because of the fact that he has such great consistency and that the Lions are 7-1.
It almost feels like better in a way if he's not clearing away like he's doing, because I mean, if he was doing everything, he would not be in the MVP conversation because he'd be turning the ball over at that point. Like, so it's to your point, like when you watch Lamar, he obviously statistically now passing the football, he's now passed Goff like statistically across the board. We also have a bye week. I don't know that they've missed a game yet, so maybe that has something to do with it. But to like your point with the offense and they're running the same things like you touched on, you get the wrinkles like the St. Brown route. Haven't seen that one yet, but you knew what they were setting it up off of. It was like, of course they needed the offside call because now it worked perfectly because that's the route they always run to St. Brown when you get to that spot. But then I think with your point about game plan, the part that hits for me there is like, you can see it where like the execution versus game plan thing, like the first sack that we had, the Lions, there will be plays I feel like where you watch them and you're like, oh, okay, maybe they weren't the right thing here because there really wasn't anywhere to go with the ball when that guy was taken away. But more times than not, that's not the case. And on that first sack, you could see Khalif was going to be open. And it was like, because you can come into the game and say like they do such a good job of taking you out of like when you can be diverse as a defense. It feels like defenses can't be diverse against them. As you touched on, you can't blitz this team. It's hard to blitz this team. Like coming into this game, Green Bay was not going to blitz much on first down. So it's like, all right, that's why they throw it on first down. And you could see that it's like they take them out of all those spots where you can get any kind of unpredictability with it. And it just feels like every single week there will be flash moments. It's easier to find the plays where they are like, okay, maybe they didn't have the best play set up for this versus most of the time this seems like they have the right answer for what the team is going to. And I don't know like who's in on all that because I'm sure that's like way deeper than Ben Johnson and all these dudes that are just like tracking what they go to on what down. But these dudes are on point, man, because like it just seems like they play the percentages, it feels like, and they're just like, this is probably what they're going to be in, so let's have this play for it. And you're just like, these guys, this is like the perfect play for what they're doing defensively. That little stuff happens all the time. And there's probably a lot of Goff at the line of scrimmage too, but that has been the case for years now. And that's what seems so difficult is that they have a way to like kind of simplify it at the line. So it's difficult to just make anything where it's like, oh, we're not prepared. They always feel like they're prepared.
All right. Offensively, you look for, and we used to do an alert check with me. So we'd have plays called, and it's a runner pass, quarterback can go to. But then on top of that, if you have enough rapport with the receivers and the quarterbacks and the different skill position players, especially in the passing game, you can come in and we also could individualize a route. So if Johnny Morton was on the left side and he was playing the X, Scott Mitchell could basically have one complete route that we were doing. He could call off the left side route that he had with Johnny and give him his own individual route that he goes to. And that could be off of a hand gesture. That could be off of a look. That could be off of a motion or whatever, because he recognizes. When we did that with Tom Moore, which I thought was brilliant, when we did the alert check with me system, we would just come up to the line of scrimmage and we would call the best play that would be most problematic for the defensive front that we saw. If we see them moving around in the secondary, the next thing that we do is we make sure we have plays that it does not matter what the defense does. We have something built in, because you start building in most offensive plays now, there's always a hot route built in. There's always a safety person or persons that are out on either the left or the right that the quarterback can go to no matter which way he's looking. So it's hard for defenses to show blitz and back out of it or come or whatever into, and run that play, because there's a play there for it if you're a seasoned offense. But it's all about the QB in that time. They have to have the experience, the poise, and the presence to be able to say, I see what they're trying to do, anticipate what they're going to do, and then all of a sudden get people lined up, get the cadence right, get the line coverage as far as blocking called, and then from there be able to execute the play. And that's what they're doing a really good job of right now. And it keeps teams at bay. Defensively for others, if we look on the other side, I think we have a very similar situation. They're doing a really good job of, as coordinators and also their scouting teams, to be able to have play recognition, set recognition, and then also understanding the analytics and the tendencies of their opponent. That mitigates a lot of things that could go wrong going wrong. And it puts you in a position to be able to be more on the attack mode. If you look at this, you look at the offense and the defense, they're attacking more. They're attacking more. And that's what I see as being just kind of the next level of evolution for this team that has allowed them to kind of make some of the moves and not be a shaky 7-1. This is one of the top 5 teams in the NFL, no, hands down.
That was a little safe there, Adrian. I'm going to be honest with you. Top 5 was a little bit weak. You had something good going, then you just threw in top 5. What was that?
You don't think they're top 5?
No, I mean, I know they're top 5. I just thought, like, okay, are we the best team or not? You know what I mean? I thought that's where we were going to end that.
Give
me top 2. Give me top 2, and then we're good. That's all.
I'm going to dial you back, right? I saw the Stephen A. Smith one. I think it was Baltimore 1, and I think Lions were 2, right? That was kind of his list, right? I think he said the best teams in the NFL. He had Green Bay still in there. He had Buffalo in there, I think, at number 3. I can't remember who rounded out the top 5. I say it like this. Listen, that's subjective too, because you don't know where your matchup problems are with teams until you actually play enough of those teams. We're seeing how they match up against, you're going to play your division rivals. The only one we haven't seen them match up with right now is Chicago. All right.
Yep.
And can they beat Chicago? Yeah, they should beat Chicago. But could they lose to Chicago? Yeah. So when we start talking about the best teams, yeah, you could be best team right now, say in terms of how they're playing, the consistency of how they're playing, and their ability to match up with any team in the NFL. I put them in top 5. But when you start thinking about hands down, what's the number 1 team, man, you got to go across the rosters, and it's beyond just statistics. So I hear you.
Yeah.
We could debate it.
Yeah.
We can debate it, and I agree. King, I know I shouldn't even say nothing about Chicago. He's saying they're complete frauds. I know we get a little heated when we talk about these different ones. All I know is that I've faced teams that I just know we came in, it is no way that team should beat us. No way. And they present the biggest damn problem that you have. And you cannot figure it out. And then you go, nah, that was a fluke. You come back and you play that team or a similar team the next time, and you realize you get the same daggone result.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it's not
Well, I know. I love where you're coming from with this, because I say that because, and so tell me if you see any of this offseason. I think you can tie a lot of these moves, because obviously last year we go to the playoffs. Packers are the other team. They're the emerging team. We're all looking at the North, and Dan Campbell stresses every time, so we've got to win the NFC North first. I felt like so many of these moves were in, maybe not directly, like it was just trying to make us better, but at the same time, it was like, we got to beat the Green Bay Packers. And I think so many of these moves directly tied to, like, how can we make the Packers uncomfortable? You get guys that can throw off all this timing because we can settle into man, because I always go back to last year when we were able to do that. They were super inconsistent offensively, but we couldn't live there. And then you had the Zeitler, right, where we were getting destroyed last year against Green Bay. All that interior pass rush they had destroyed us last season. Now, I'm with you. I think Chicago... I'd love to be brought up matchups, because I think Chicago is the toughest matchup for us in this division. So I'm not super confident that we're going to go sweep Chicago. But Green Bay, on the other hand, I'm confident with Green Bay, because I feel like so many of our pieces are just matched up to play that team. And then the Minnesota Vikings, we've just seen now Ben do it 3 times in a row. All this defensive talk, every time he plays them, it looks the exact same to me every single time. So, okay, it's fair where you're coming from, not saying they were best. I get it. But I'll tell you that the Bears might not be in the playoffs, so we ain't got to worry about that.
Right. I mean, because I would say like this, right? No one's sitting here saying Tampa Bay's top 5, right?
It's true.
Tampa Bay beat us. They beat us at home.
Yeah.
All right. So it's all it is. And if you go into the playoffs, you lose one game, you're done. So there's potentially 8, 9 other teams that could be considered better than you by the time the season ends because of what you do in just the playoffs. You could walk in there being the number 1, but if you walk out of there being number 10, you know how you gonna put yourself above others. So Tampa Bay is sneaky. I agree. So there you go. Lisa said, "Listen, man. I mean, Lorenzo said Tampa Bay sneaky. They are. I think those. Let's dial it back for a second with Green Bay. And yes,
okay,
I know the Packers, the Vikings, the Bear fans, they're real salty right now because of what they saw. It's 3 plays I'm going to point to. Yesterday, Green Bay goes down. They get a 14-play drive. They score. They get a field goal. Lions come back. They do their thing. Green Bay goes back again. They're faced with 4th down in one situation. Instead of punting and playing field position, I'm telling you, man, listen, when you're that type of a game, the weather like it is, you want to kick it, get your offense, the opponent backed up in their territory, give them a long field. They got bad weather. Yeah. So what if they've been able to march down the field, make them march another 10 plays down the field to make a score, and then maybe you hold them to a field goal. Now, it's a tie game, whatever. They decide they're going to get cute with it, and everybody thinks that they could be Dan Campbell, right? And they're going to go for it on 4th down. Great field position. Lions come back. They score. They get now. You don't get any points. Lions score. That's a 10-point swing. You miss a field goal. Now you're down another one. But the 2 4th down plays and then the Jordan Love pass that he should have thrown away and taken a sack or did whatever are the ones that completely blew that game and changed it open, because in the 4th quarter, they would only been down 1 score.
Mm-hmm.
They had like 4 or 5 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. Green Bay would have only needed 1 score to tie the game up.
Yeah.
And yet they fall in 3 scores behind because of that tight of a game. So when we want to say we blew them away, it wasn't really a big blowout. It was just one team making 3 critical errors cost them a game. At least an opportunity to be competitive. 3 plays.
And then to your point, especially in these conditions, because it's hard to make up those points. This game, it's 100% because if this game was perfect weather, if this game's in Ford Field, the game doesn't feel like it was over when it got to. This game felt like it was over at 24-3. Because like you were saying, and that was the big difference. Like last year when we got beat by Green Bay, it was like we fell into the exact same hole. I think it was 6-23 at one point in that game. We fell into the exact same hole. We tried to fake a punt, does not happen. Then we set them up to score again. It was like all of a sudden we were in the exact same position that we were in. So we completely avoided any of the position we were in last year when we lost to this team. We never had a down where it's like we have to pass the ball. Third down, it was like, all right, run it and punt it. It never felt like there was a spot in this game where we had to do something that maybe wasn't the most comfortable. We felt comfortable the entire game. It's crazy how many games are like that. Like it feels like every game in a way kind of comes down to just a few of those plays.
Yeah, well, that's the way this is, and because the score can be deceiving. You can hear about how the Lions did and they dominated. It wasn't really a dominated game. It's pretty
the Titans game.
It's pretty close. It's just that these plays change how the offensive coordinators on both sides, the defensive coordinators are having to play. And after that, they had this other disastrous play in which they were having, and they got to take a timeout. It's like everything that was going wrong that they didn't want to go wrong was happening, and it was happening at home. It demoralized the defense, and the Lions then went out and they were able to start to attack them, because if you get behind against this Lions team and they start running the football, I don't want to have to face the Lions behind them and by scores. And then all of a sudden the Lions going to beat you and control the clock by just running the football, because they don't have to throw.
Right.
This is not a team that has to throw. Like, I'm just as excited watching them run the football as they are throwing the football. And that's probably one of the things teams fear the most. If they can't stop the run, you can't stop the Lions.
I'm 100% with you on that. I'm just trying to think back, because you're saying so you're saying the play that they got stuffed on 4th down. You're saying the missed field goal.
Missed field goal.
What was the third one?
No, so the missed field goal.
Missed field goal. Okay.
Going forward on 4th down and giving Lions great field position. Lions turn around and then take that in, get a score. Right.
What was that play? I'm like, that's going over my head. What was that?
The 4th down?
Yeah. Which 4th? Did they have 2 4th downs? I'm thinking the one they got stuffed. What's the? That
The
one.
one when they were short, when they could have punted.
Okay.
They didn't want to go for they didn't want to go for a field goal because it was too far. They didn't have confidence in their kicker.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they didn't get the first down.
Okay. Yeah.
And they gave the Lions great field position. Same thing that they saw with Tennessee. All right. You give them a short field.
Was
Lions
the exact same
2 or 3
thing.
plays away from scoring opportunity. And that's all I'm saying. And then you got the Jordan Love, he throws a pick six.
That was bad. That was bad.
That should never happen.
That was bad. but like a play like that feels like, and I think like when we look at like coming into the year, and these conversations never come up once the year starts because it kind of gets thrown away. But I think back to the idea of like, oh well, Glenn came back and so did Ben Johnson, and we have all these like same players kind of still here. And it makes me think of a play like that where you have like teams like Chicago who defensively you kind of know what they are, but offensively they're still trying to figure it out. It's like, okay, what's our foundation? But defensively it feels like we've kind of built that foundation. Like we know who we are. We have new pieces in there, but we know who we want to be. And now to your point, it's like all the little wrinkles that just get added once a game. So it's the unpredictability, but then it's the wrinkle because, defensively like that interception, Alex, I'm thinking for sure, oh, he's dropping into coverage. And then here he comes. So he like dropped, then he blitzes on the play. And it's like, that's like, it's not something crazy, but it just feels like one of those just a slight tweak changes the entire outcome because if he doesn't blitz, he probably doesn't do whatever the heck that was. But also, was this your takeaway too? Because I thought for the Lions defensively in this game, their decision to what you were saying, like the game plan, this is the thing with, he's always, we know that Aaron Glenn's he likes to play man. But he has absolutely changed his approach depending on who they're playing. Like we've seen that now through the years. And this game, so much of it felt like, hey, we're going to play 4 deep. We're going to keep it in front. We're going to make Love have a 10-play drive to go score a touchdown. Because as we saw, like we all know him as a fan. Even in the rain, it was like we know he wants to go get the big play. So we're just not even going to really allow that opportunity. We're going to make you have to live underneath because eventually you just might make one of those mistakes just like he did. And we might get you in that situation to do it. And that's not the game plan every week. It felt like if you watched Houston play Green Bay, it felt like we did kind of the exact same thing. It's like make them work it slow. Did you take that away too?
I did. There was a lot, Coach Aaron Glenn, he wants to run man coverage. He wants these guys playing man. He's a cover corner. During the days when I was playing and watching them play, that was his bread and butter. And it speeds up the ability for the quarterback to be in the pocket. The other problem you run into, though, is that you got to have good cover corners. You got to also have pressure that can get to the quarterback. And I think the Lions are kind of tinkering between the two. And they don't really want to put pressure, but they can't allow quarterbacks to stay in the pocket. If you look, there was time in the pocket. Mm-hmm. They just did a really good job in terms of covering the receivers. And they were doing a lot with making sure they didn't get anything deep by having the 2 safeties deep. And then they played all man coverage underneath. And by doing that, you can let guys run. You can let guys switch off. But at the same time, you don't have to worry about anyone going deep because Green Bay didn't run a lot of vertical routes. They tried. And then if you look, all right, let's go back. All right. And again, I'm going to dial real people back in so you can see, like I always like to look at where can you break a system, where are problems. They got behind the corners a couple of times. There were a couple of times the ball just floated or it just didn't get to a spot and we want to blame it on the weather. We can blame it on whatever. We go, okay, let's go inside to where it's good weather, right? Those are probably completed passes. Those are guys running underneath deep passes over the safety or running with running past cornerbacks in man-to-man coverage. So we're still loose and we're still a little light when it comes to having those shutdown corners. We're depending on our safeties to make plays. We're depending on the defensive rush to get to the quarterback. When you're rushing 4, it's hard. We don't have a dominant player where you can rush 4 and have consistent pressure on the quarterback, plus be able to have underneath coverage. So there's some exposure that's going to be here. I think they've just done a really good job of staying out of those positions. Quarterbacks, for whatever reason, have missed some of those opportunities that have come up. We saw the one wheel route, guys wide open, right? And the quarterback doesn't see him, right? And completely misses. So there's some holes there that they got to really pay attention to. Offensively, they're just solid. Offense, they're solid, but defense, I think there's still some tight games that could be a whole different story very easily. Very easily.
That feels like it's been the one consistent switch though defensively. Going back to last year starting to play out has been red zone defense. Like you bring up the 1, 2, 3 play, like they're allowing teams to get those. And you even think about the Brian Branch play. how long that play was incredible. Jordan Love had the ball so long. I mean, he brought it across the entire field, waiting, and that route did get open because it just rolled on way too darn long. And it's like, hey, even that pass should have been caught. It hit him in the hands. I thought it was a pass break. I watched it back. He dropped it. It's like that was a pass that absolutely should have been caught. You feel it there. It's like Aleem did some work, but you're not getting anything against good offensive tackles. You're just not getting anything off the edge. So you just can't bring 4 in those spots now. But yeah, I mean, that's I think that's been the biggest thing, and you're even seeing it against the run, is just the red zone defense has been the most reliable piece since back in the playoffs, and that feels like that's where all the versatility and all those pieces that we're talking about they have all come into play, and those guys all show up in that spot when everything gets condensed, and that's where I feel like that's where they're making their money defensively.
Yeah, they are, and I just really believe that it's going to get better. I think they're going to start to bring some different defensive coverage schemes that get the linebackers a little bit more involved. I expect them to bring a little bit more pressure. They have gotten better. I agree, Steve. They've gotten a little bit better. I just don't think teams have tested them, though, man to man, as much as some of the others. I don't think they got tested as much as we saw against Tampa with Mayfield and Baker Mayfield and his receiver units. I think we'll see a little bit of that against the Houston Texans, right? I think we'll see them get tested a little bit more on the corners. Teams haven't really gone after Terry and Arnold as we saw early on. Teams are going to get back to that. You're going to see teams want to take shots and see if they want to keep him in man-to-man coverage. I see they're protecting him a little bit with the safeties. They're deterring you they're allowing him to play hard man coverage, but then they got that safety over top spying going, hey, keep an eye on him, making sure he's good over there. It's just going to be interesting to see how they dial everything up moving forward.
Do you feel like, though, because I feel like to that point, and that feels like the difference because I mean all the talk about from Green Bay land, it's all about how deep they are at receiver. Like all you hear is like they don't have a number one because they're all kind of number ones and they have all this depth. But I feel like in this game's a little bit unique because of the weather, but it does feel like hey, when you put teams, because no one really does it anymore. Everybody plays zone coverage now. There's always going to be windows that you could find as long as you have that time. There's windows that are going to be there. It's like when you can make teams constantly have to make contested grabs, it feels like it shakes things. There's not enough teams that can put that stress on you because everybody has a liability. I mean, how many teams can you point to in the NFL that has a number 2 corner? You know what I mean? Like most teams don't even have a number 2, barely a number 1 for most teams. So it's like most teams can't even try that. So most teams are going to have to give you something, and then it's just about can we get to that one thing? And a lot of times it feels like with Minnesota, now they're bringing all this blitzing like they did last year. Difference is now every time they're dropping in the zone now, they're not even trying man anymore. It's like because we saw Gilmore get tested. So I think that's a good point because Houston's going to go at Terrion, and I think Terrion, he's improved. I thought he looked good against Green Bay, but at the same time, I think I don't want to say we exposed Green Bay, but I think it's like that's the difference when a legitimate number 1 versus you have a lot of really good receivers versus a team that can actually play man across the board. I always think back to New England. New England would just shut teams down because they could just play man. When they played us, they beat us like 30-0. We couldn't get anybody open. It was like every play, there's nobody open. It's just like there's no answers here. And I think that feels like what they're hoping to get to is to that point where it's like we can get to that point where it's just uncomfortable for everybody. And because we saw Ridley. When Ridley got 1-on-1 against Terrion, that was a veteran that was like, hey, I'm doing a little work on this guy. And you said that. You said that, hey, I used that example because you were the one that brought up like, as a receiver, the best cornerback to go against is a rookie because they just haven't seen it. And every time I was watching that, that's what it felt like when I was watching Ridley. I was like, this feels like what H-Man was saying. Terrion just has not seen this. And he's just a step ahead of everything because everything at corner in the NFL feels like it's not about athleticism anymore. You have to be like, I'm expecting this to go there. I'm expecting him to try to beat me like this. I have to be a step ahead of everything. Otherwise, I'm just going to get beat by these guys.
Right. Put it like this. I was watching... Okay. What was it? The one holding, and it's not to pick on Terrion. And I think it was like it was a punt. Was it a punt return? And he was going down when he was on defense, and he grabbed the guy by his ear. And I was sitting there going to myself, going, "Man, it's like I can't understand. I don't understand what's going on here." And then I saw a couple other routes. When the guy doesn't move and he breaks on the inside, or what we call breaking across the defensive back's face, he just grabs. And there's something there to where I'm telling you, and I'll give you, if I'm an offensive coordinator, if I'm a receiver, I'm going back, especially a veteran guy. I'm going to go back and say, listen, we're going to just throw up we're going to throw up one pass deep ball against him per quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hoping we get one, maybe 2 PIs, period. That's just as good as a deep pass, catching a deep pass. And then if we start to get him in trouble or get him uncomfortable because they know we're attacking, now I'm going to force you to use one of your stud safeties. Now I'm going to take 2 of your players out of the thing. I got your number 1 starting corner, and now I've taken out one of your top deep safeties, and I can account for them with 1 player. That's a matchup thing. I don't even have to throw the pass over there. I now have created an issue. Those are the things I'm going to get concerned with as we get further and teams and these other coordinators start to really look at how you attack this Lions defense. You don't worry so much right now about pass rush because unless they bring in someone that can start to apply pressure, the assumption is going to be you got time in the pocket. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I'm going to start dialing up all kind of plays to attack those guys and force them into man. Once I force them into man, I'm now going to force their safeties to have to pay attention down there. And then from there, you start to kind of manipulate them and you can start to manufacture what you want to get done. It's just a different way that this changes. So Dale said, do the rules provide an advantage for the offense? I think the rule is an advantage for the offense. I think definitely on the offensive side, I think it is. And I think also defensively, they're really letting these guys pull and tug and push a little bit more. So PI is just kind of one of those subjective calls too. I don't think there's anything definitive there, but that's where we are. Defensively, there's holes, there's problems. I know we've been chopping it up for a minute. I don't know if you got anything you or CZ want to kind of hit and close out with, but the take on this week, coming up against the Texans, it's a big game. But I don't know if you have any takes on that.
Well, I'll say the NFC North, look at the schedule for everybody else. Like everybody's should be winning this weekend. So it's like the stakes have not changed. You have to keep finding ways to win because this thing will close like that. Minnesota winning yesterday. I was like, you're a little bit less optimistic. I was hoping for a little bit more, this defense looks, but I didn't get that vibe. I got a little bit more of like the concerns. I was hoping for a little bit, more uplifting. And it's all good though. That's where you're at. That's okay. I'll say this though. This is my one note to Terry on, and because I'm with you. Like I'm absolutely with you. And we saw that with Calvin. I will say though, I do think it is a positive that we're not seeing the flags now because I do feel like at least down the field, it feels like it's at least like when he's an off cover, like it feels like he's a little bit less reactive. Just like I'm just gonna grab the guy. You know what I mean? Like let me trust myself a little bit more. But we are still seeing like on the 2-point conversion, like you said, the guy's crossing his face, like that kind of thing, and I don't remember if you were the one that told me this or someone else told me this. They're like, man, the hardest thing for a cornerback is the slant. Like they hate guarding slants. And it's just like those kind of routes, him being a guy that transitioned from safety to corner, it feels like that's just like one of those things where it's like that just might take a minute. But I can at least have optimism in the fact that at least the flags are pulling back in coverage because he's not getting called for flags left and right off when the ball's not being thrown to him. So at least there's that because we know that he can make plays on the football. That hasn't gone anywhere. Okay, you're a little bit lower out there, and I was trying to build him back up before we got out of here. If that's okay, it's all right.
Let me be honest. I have a lot of confidence in him if he continues to work on building confidence to say you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. It's just the way it is. But you want to be beat, and from there you're going to continue to learn. Right? Get it? But I'm telling that it seems just too easy, impulsive to grab. And to tug and pull and to, when you get a guy that, gives you a move, this is the NFL, man. You're going to get some players that are going to throw some moves on you and they're going to leave you standing there looking stupid. I've gotten jammed at the line. I had to learn how to beat that. I used to have this club because I was a big guy. I just, I would knock a guy over and the referees would call me on it because they said I was being overly aggressive at the line because I was so much bigger, right, than some of the defensive backs at times. But when I talk about just the concerns, do I think this defense, you look at all the number one categories that they're leading in, I get it, man. They're getting teams off the field. Lions are, they're the tops, right? They're playing really, really good, sound, executed coverage, football, everything. We haven't seen the PIs. We haven't seen a lot of the penalties. But when I'm looking at it, I know if I see it, I don't pretend to be the NFL top level offensive coordinator, but I know I'm sitting there going, damn, I would love, and I mean, I would love to go against some things I'm seeing.
H-Man, I feel like
with the teams I've played, like with the coordination, it ain't like all of a sudden I'm saying, okay, let's take a walk back down memory lane. I'm just saying I can see where to attack. And I'm telling you where we will be just fighting each other in the huddle to go against certain coverages and plays and player. I'm just telling you. But the game has changed. They don't have Johnny Morton, Brett Perriman, Herman Moore, Barry. You don't just find teams that are going to be stacked and they can attack you with any of those players. So you can get away with some things. You know, you can be not so great. You know, if you got a guy that's sitting there killing it, you throw a Darryl Green on him. He's a lockdown corner. You get a Dion. You start throwing down lockdown corners. Now you're taking people out. You got to force other teams to beat. But that's the beautiful part about what the league we're playing in now, and that we're seeing. The Lions are one of in this day and era of teams. They're one of the best teams in the NFL based on how it is now. 100%. I know a lot of people want to go and start talking back. Let's start across forever and across any team. No. I have to walk them back and go, listen, man, it's just different. It's not the same. Stop. Everybody just stop. And it's not shade. It's no jealousy. It's no envy. It is just not the same. All right. You know, I've seen defenses where they're just stacked, right? We're not seeing any of those. All right. Everybody just calm down on that.
See, this the H-Man. I feel like this is an unfair topic. We shouldn't have got. I'm sitting here listening, and I'm like, okay, of course he's watching this, thinking, man, if I could just line up against Terrion, I would have had 150 yards. That's what you're picturing in your mind. That's what you're thinking.
He is mine, and this isn't a pick on.
Other teams don't have you. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. So they don't have to face that. Like the Lions aren't facing Terrion Arnold. Isn't going against a Sterling Sharp. You know what I'm saying? A guy that not only physically is going to overpower him, a guy that's just going to just basically dominate him. He's too strong, he's too fast, he's too smart, he's too crafty. He's not facing a Jerry Rice, you know, and a John Taylor and a Brent Jones, right? Or any of those. It's just, or not Brent Jones or whoever they had at the time, you know, the Dwight Clark and Brent Jones were there. You're not facing those kind of people, not facing a Randy Moss. And you're going, hey, we got this rookie we got to face. So that's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
But who's going to expose it? That's what I'm waiting for. We 8 weeks in. Yeah.
I'm saying that's why I have confidence that he's going to get better, because you can't. He's not going to get destroyed. When I faced Newsome, I had 3 touchdowns in the first half. Right? And I could tell he was done. I mean, he was baked. Right? And probably killed his career. I don't know. You know. But no one's attacking him, right? You think about it. When last time we heard pass breakup or tackle or almost interception, or maybe we saw almost a fumble recovery, but they're not attacking him. We would be attacking. When I say attacking, I mean, boy, let me tell you.
He's doing work, H-Man.
Okay.
Lock guys up.
I'm going after your corners like you can't believe. you know what I mean?
Hey, I hear. Hey, that's why it's good we have Carlton, because Carlton is doing his thing.
Yeah. And he's not a bad thing. Again, these aren't bad players. I'm just saying there's some exposure there, and it's not because they're bad. It's just because of youth. It's because they just they haven't had the exposure. But saying that, man, I think they're on the right path. I think this is going to be a tough game. You know, you got 6-3, Houston coming off a loss to the Jets, but I think that's going to turn around. They're going to be playing at home. I think they have a pretty good defense. I think they will be able to make some plays. They're going to bring some pressure. So they're going to try and collapse the pocket against the Lions. But receiver wise, I think, you know, now that Diggs is out, I don't think they have those home run hitters. They have competent receivers, but I just don't, it changes the dynamics of that passing game.
Real quick question. Just, I don't want to hold it. We didn't get a trade buzz at all, but if we just said position in general, based on what you said, do you think it would make any sense if the Lions were like, that veteran cornerback's out there, whoever that name is, he's pretty darn good, he's on a bad team, to go get that guy to pair him with Carlton, because of what you're saying about the youth and where the Lions are at right now going into the playoff run?
This will surprise some people. If I found a lockdown or a corner that was available that could come in and pick up the system not disrupt everything that we have going there. Give my guys a little bit more time. I'm not gonna say that's my number one. I'm still gonna go after. I need somebody on that defensive line. I think you still got to get pressure. Pressure's got to be big, but I would just start to look before I say it's defensive lineman or bust. I would look and see who are we facing coming down the stretch. Who can knock us out of position? Who's going to be most problematic and why? And then I would form that player based on that because they're in a good position right now. I don't see the Lions falling into a 4 or 5 game lull where they start to lose 4 and 5 in a row. If there's a game here or there that unfortunately they give up, they're still going to be in a commanding position. So it's finding those players that you're going to need down the stretch when you get into the championship games and you get into the championship part of the season.
Okay. Yeah, I just asked because I know, you see what Philly has with Devontae and AJ Brown. So I just, talking about these guys that have been there, done that. He's going to be seeing Terry on. So what are those two?
Yep, they're gonna make you light.
Yeah.
And then you also got running game, right?
Yeah.
The Eagles not light in the running game. You got Saquon, man. He's over there doing his thing, right?
Yeah.
Lose Swift, but Swift goes over to Chicago, and he's not doing horrible, right? In their running game over in Chicago, right? So but we've been pretty good against the run. We've been good against the pass. It's been a great night, man. I appreciate everybody jumping on. Yeah. Also, third down. The Lions are number 1 in that stat category. I agree. A lot of things to be really happy about, to feel good about this team, the coaches, the consistency of their play. But more importantly, man, we love the fact that you all are picking the time. You could be anywhere, but you came to join us tonight and hang out and show some love. Continue to hit and smash that like button. Continue to follow us on our social channels. Let everyone know what we're doing over here. Continue to come back. And we love to chop it up, man. Keep submitting your questions to us, not only here, but also on our social posts as we continue to get forward. I know we got some pretty cool things coming up, CZ. I don't know if you want to, shout out to everyone, let them know what they need to come and do and hang out with us.
Yeah, so if there's anybody in Michigan, in Southeast Michigan, that can get to Royal Oak, we're having a Herman Moore VIP experience on Sunday night. So we're going to be at the Imagine Royal Oak, and it's going to be awesome. So you can come in, you can actually purchase a seat, or you can just hang out in the lounge area. But either way, Herman's going to be there, meet and greet. You can get some stuff signed in time for the holidays. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Cameo, but we're actually going to do cameos there for a significantly lower cost as part of the experience. So we're going to be releasing those tickets tomorrow. So make sure that you keep a lookout for Herman's channels or Lions Nation Unite's channels.
Yep. And anyone who knows, if you go to the Imagine Theater, man, it's plush seats. They bring your food out to you. You can get adult beverages if you are so inclined to partake in that. While we're there, we have general admission areas. We have VIP areas. We're going to do a little bit of a meet and greet, but then we're going to kick back. We're going to watch the game. And it's nothing like having a party with a bunch of fans, and we plan on doing it big. It's limited seats. I think we only have a couple hundred seats that are available, but come on out, reserve your seats now. And I know you're in Florida. Hey, Mad Widget, sorry about that. I wish you were here and you would be able to hang out with us, but maybe when you get back, that'll be cool. But this won't be our last one. We're going to do hopefully another one or two before the end of the season, and then hopefully some in the postseason. But come on out. It's going to be a beautiful environment surrounding, and you'll be greatly taken care of. So come hang out with us and show some support. And that's it. We have a blast.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming out.
Appreciate you, everyone. Be blessed. Have a good night.